Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and part 2 of gel printing basics. So it takes me a few days to make these videos, and in the meantime I will place a piece of paper over my gel plate to protect it somewhat. And I advise you not to rest anything on it when you're away, because this will leave an imprint on your gel plate and you don't want that because that will never go away. Okay, so let's make a few backgrounds. And as I said before, I like to start with some light colors. Yellow and an orange in the middle. When brayering paint out, use the whole plate. This way the paint will go all around the whole brayer and it will distribute the paint evenly over the plate. Here I have some scrap paper that I roll excess paint off on. If I would go over the plate too many times, instead of brayering the paint out, it will adhere itself back to the brayer. So at some point you just have to stop. Okay, let's see what we got here. You can make backgrounds from 1, 2 or 3 colors. Does not really matter how many colors you put on. Okay, rub all around, especially around the edges. We sometimes forget the corners. And in the center, make sure that the paper has a good contact with the plate at all times. And this is a very good solid print, and as you can see there's some paint left over. I can do two things: leave it to dry and then add more paint to it for a next background, or grab a piece of paper and pull the print and see what we got here. Now, because this is the second print of the same paint, this is called a ghost print because it is a ghost-like image of the previous one. Also notice that there's a lot of yellow here and not as much over there. When we add paint to the plate, the paint that is against the plate will show when you lift the paint off onto the paper. So the more layers of paint you add, so let's do that for a minute. Let's add yellow and orange first. Not too much. This time, only 2 blobs, and we're going to then say I find that I don't have enough paint. Let's add a red so that we can see the difference. So I'll add a little blob of red on top. Try to mix it with the rest. Okay, and pull the print. I will be either fast forwarding or clipping the video so that it doesn't take too long. Well, you don't have to see me rub all the time. Now here I have a sort of a red and an orangey color. Now let's grab another piece of paper, rub firmly, and here you see the yellow because the yellow was added first and the red was added later. It's a good thing to kind of understand how the layering of the paint on the gel plate works. Now what I forgot to mention was that I will be making multiple prints on one piece of paper. So to have the patterns line up, I placed a piece of paper under my gel plate. That's the same size as my paper. So every time I pull a print, I will place my paper exactly aligned with the paper underneath. I will continue making some more backgrounds, and when I think I have enough, I will come back and we'll play with stencils, masks, and other texture making things. So let's start making some serious patterned papers. So I'm going to use these 2 papers to show you the first technique with a stencil. First, of course, we're going to pick a color that contrasts with this. So I would choose an opaque color. Okay, I'm going to use these 2 blues. Dollop in the middle, another dollop in the middle. That might be way too much. I don't want an overly excessive amount of paint on the plate, so I'm going to take some of the paint off. Okay, so that's about it. Then I'm going to use an open stencil. This is my own stencil. I'm grabbing one of the papers and I'm going to align it with the paper under the gel plate and rub until I think I have removed all the paint from between the open spaces. And once in a while have a peek and see if you removed most of it. Don't forget the corners. Let me have a look over here. As you can see, the stencil has transferred, but there's still some left here, which is fine. So now I'm going to take this paper off and I'll show you in a minute better. So now I'm going to grab this paper and place it on here to pick up what was under the stencil. And here you have the other one. Okay, let me grab the first one. Here you can clearly see where the stencil is because the stencil blocks the paint from coming up. When the stencil is removed, you can see that I had not removed all the paints from the open spaces, but this gives a very nice textured paper. Now let's do that again, but then using one piece of paper, it gives a different effect. Okay, grab stencil, and you can do this with a plain piece of paper or with a background paper, but I want to show you on a plain piece of paper first. Okay, so this is what we have here. Now I'm going to remove this stencil. This needs to be drier than it is, but we're going to go ahead anyway. So I can do one of two things. Now I can line it up exactly as much as I can, or I can offset it just a tiny little bit. So I'm going to offset it at just a tiny little bit. At least that's what I think I'm going to do. And see what we got. A very subtle new background. I think this would work better with a transparent paint. So I'm going to try it again with a transparent paint. Different color. Okay, so I'm going to use these two paints. I hope they're not going to make mud because of the blue underneath. Oh well, it will be interesting. Put the stencil on, grab a piece of paper. I'm going to grab another piece of paper and do it again, because I think there's quite a bit of paint left. Look at how it picked up all the other paints. This is actually pretty nice. Very nice. Okay, I'm taking off the stencil and placing the paper back on. Let's see if I can line it up a bit or not. This looks really nice. This is another one doing the same thing. Now, if you had used one with a background, it would show through here. Okay, I want to clean my plate for a minute here. So instead of using a baby wipe or anything like that, I'm just going to use white paint and probably get another grungy print. I still will line up all the papers. Just gonna pull it right away. Another beautiful grungy paper. I really like these kinds of papers. It shows so much of the previous layers of paints I used. And you can't really duplicate this. It's just one of a kind print. And that's why it's called monoprinting. So I want to end part 2 here. Otherwise the video is going to be too long. I will see you in part 3, where I'll show you a little bit more about building up layers with different stencils. See you next time. Bye.